Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Thursday, February the 2nd. A pleasure to have you with us. And we have our money expert with us, retired professor of home economics at the University of Missouri, Mel Zelenak. Good to have you here. And here's a guy who you really do dwells in trying to save as much money as possible, don't you?
Well, and we've been doing this for how many years? Close to since 70 or since 86, I guess.
35 years, something like that. And over those years, you have saved me a lot of money. The one thing that pops back into my head, the very first thing you told me was 30 some odd years ago. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yes, I do.
When you rent a car, if you have your own automobile insurance, you should decline the collision damage waiver. That can be up to $12 a day extra.
Well, and so many of those things you should decline. But always keep in mind, check with your insurance
agent.
That's right.
Check with your insurance agency before you go on vacation, and make sure that if you rent a car, that your personal insurance, automobile insurance, will cover the rented car.
Exactly. Or sometimes some credit card companies will, and so forth.
Yeah, most of them.
But generally speaking, it's not a good idea to buy that collision damage
and they
waiver.
try to talk you into it.
Well, and for a while it wasn't such of a problem, but now I'm noticing. We rented it's actually an Alamo car, and it took me 15 minutes to get out of the place because they were telling me about all the things I was missing. Fill up the gas tank. We'll fill up the gas tank at whatever it was, $11, $12 a gallon.
If you don't bring it back full.
Yeah.
If you don't bring it back full. So fill up your own gas tank before you return the car.
But even the other thing that we talked about related to that is sometimes because of the airport taxes, the charge at the airport is almost unconscionable. And I always bring up the wonderful example of Anchorage, Alaska, where you would pay $1,700 for a week for a van. If you got a cab to go 4 miles downtown,
it's a lot cheaper.
$400 for the week.
Because you're not paying for that airport concession charge. And that's what they call it, is the airport concession charge. But you just have to check it out. A lot of times if you rent from an off-airport location, a rental car is going to be a lot cheaper.
Yes, and related to this too, even flying into certain airports in the world, London, for example, has kind of an unconscionable tax. And I was reading an article a couple weeks ago that people are just trying to avoid London because you're paying, according to the article, $100 more than you will by flying into other parts of Europe. And so unless you're going right to to London, you might take an alternative city. Barcelona is very beautiful. My favorite city in the world is Reykjavik, Iceland. So.
Yeah, you can fly Icelandic Air there.
Yeah.
That was the first time I went to Europe. I flew Icelandic Air and stopped in Reykjavik, Iceland. You get off at this little airport, you walk around a little bit, and then they ring the bell. It was like a big school bell. It's time to get back on the airplane again. You fly to Luxembourg.
And related, and then we'll get to the other topics. Related to Iceland, that's a situation where the roads are kind of bumpy there. So when you rent a car there, I suggest you rent a car from a company called SAD, S-A-D-D, SAD Cars, because they don't worry about collision damage waiver or anything, because their cars have 350, 400,000 kilometers on them. So
that's like, I think in Hawaii they have a company called Rent-A-Wreck.
Same idea, exactly the same idea.
All right, so there was a little off-the-cuff tips there, but you wanted to talk about some other things.
I did want to give an update. Last time I wasn't even aware that there was this discussion about the fiduciary rule that might be overturned in the Trump administration. And I was reading a few minutes ago, as a matter of fact, that it appears that may well happen, that fiduciary rule on retirement funds may go by the wayside. Nobody knows for sure. It's too early.
And that was something that Barack Obama was pushing for,
where
your financial advisor had to have your best interest at heart when they gave you financial advice?
Well, not only at heart, but they needed that fiduciary relationship. And fiduciary relationship means that they're basically acting almost like a doctor is with you or an attorney with you, in that they have to have your best interest in mind, not the company's best interest in mind.
And that was supposed to go in effect in April. It still is scheduled, but it could be overturned.
It could be overturned only on retirement funds. But the good news, in my view, is, if there's any good news in that, is that now the word is out about this fiduciary, this problem that financial planners do have, that we've talked about on almost every show, with not looking out for the best interest of the consumers. In many cases, and in most cases, frankly, unless you've signed a fiduciary letter with the financial planners, in my view, you're not going to have a fiduciary relationship with that person. They're looking out for the interest of their company and not you.
Okay.
That's the first one.
We've got about 2 minutes left here.
Okay. And Paul, last time we did talk also about the expense ratio related to this, and a lot of people think that the expense ratio is the only rate, is the only amount that you pay, and that's how you can compare cost in a fund that you're going to buy, for example. And that's not the case. Expense ratio is one charge, but there are as many as 10 other charges that can be on there. The average total fees is 3.17%, and that does not include any tax problems that you have. If tax problems add another 1% to that, according to this article in Forbes.
So how do you find out the total cost?
Well, it's almost impossible to find it out. There are a couple websites, and I'll suggest that somebody just, if they're interested, they can write to me and or email me at melscruises@charter.net, and I could provide a few websites for them.
Down to 30 seconds, Mel.
Okay, and the last point I guess I would like to make at this point in time has to do with developing passive income and buying assets and liability, and buying assets and differentiating between that and a liability.
Okay. So maybe next time we can talk on passive incomes. You've got a call coming in for some of your passive income.
Unfortunately, we do.
All right. But if you want more information on this, you can, Mel will be more than happy to chat with you at Mel's Cruises.
melscruises@charter.net.
All right. That's it, Mel. Thank you so much for coming by. Tomorrow, we're going to find out about MU Theater and Primrose Hill Teen Challenge. Our program directed by Travis McMillan, Reynolds Journalism Institute. Audio is Pat Akers from KBIA. Our floor director is Lowell Thomas, and our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser. Drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. Bye-bye.